Hello, welcome everyone again to the Kingdom Politics Podcast with myself, Pastor Will, and Dr. Michael Huffman. And we're going to do some more on the abortion amendment. We'll probably do a bunch more episodes on that one, but we did that one last week, and we mostly covered everything, but there's a lot more to that one. But as that one gets closer, we'll do more episodes on that one because there's a lot to dive into on that one. But today we're going to look at the marriage amendment that's getting again, this is going to go to vote in November. I'm going to read this one because it's super short. Basically, they've in the military we call it a red line. I don't know. Crossed through quite a bit of it. So now it's going to say the amendment in the Bill of Rights will say that marriage is one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness. This Commonwealth and its political subdivisions shall not deny the issuance of a marriage license to two adult persons seeking a lawful marriage on the basis of the sex, gender, or race of such persons. Then some more line outs, and then finishes with this Commonwealth and its political subdivisions shall recognize any lawful marriage between two adult persons and treat such marriages equally under the law, regardless of the sex, gender, or race of such persons. And so this one for churches in particular, well, you and I agree that all of this is biblical.
Yes.
But that being said, we both know that sometimes churches have a hard time stepping into that arena. This is one where this is going to affect churches. I don't know of any church that does not perform marriages. I'm sure one exists somewhere. I don't know any. I don't know any. I'm licensed to perform marriages. I don't do them that often, but I'm licensed from the court. Where do you see before? I guess what's your overall view of it? And
well, I had a senator call me to his office at the beginning of the session and ask, what can we do to this amendment to clean it up so the VAIB would support it? I said, throw it away. He looked at me like I had 5 heads. I said, there's nothing you can do that would clean this up that would cause any evangelical church to accept this.
Yeah.
Because of what it does to the family. Now, it's interesting that if you go all the bills that they introduce have a summary. If you go on lis.virginia.gov and you go to search box, you type in HJ, Henry Jack, or House Joint, number 3, it'll take you to the marriage amendment. And every marriage amendment, or every bill has what they have as an introductory summary.
Right.
And what's interesting about this, and I'm going to get a little technical for our viewers, so they may find this a little boring, but if it gets too boring, you and I will stand up and do some jumping jacks. It's interesting when you read the introduction to the summary to find out the basis of this amendment. 2006, let me go back a little bit farther. 2006, a really good friend of mine, Bob Marshall, he was a delegate in the House of Delegates back then. And he patroned, actually it was a couple years prior to that because it has to go through 2 sessions, but he patroned the Marshall-Newman Amendment. And basically, before 2006, the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Virginia did not define what marriage was. So Bob Marshall, when he was in the House, he patroned a bill that added 15-A to Article 1 of the Constitution of Virginia. It basically said the parts that they crossed out, which basically said 15-A of Article 1 of the Bill of Rights of the Constitution, right now, today, says this, that only a union between one man and one woman may be a marriage valid or recognized by this Commonwealth and its political subdivision. That's what the Constitution of Virginia says right now.
Yeah.
The Commonwealth and its political subdivision shall not create or recognize a legal status for relationships of unmarried individuals that intends to approximate the design, quality, significance, or effects of a marriage. Nor shall this Commonwealth or its political subdivisions create or recognize another union, partnership, or other legal status to which is assigned the rights, benefits, obligations, qualities, or effects of a marriage. That's what our Constitution says right now. That's the play. You talked about the red line.
Right.
That's what I just read is the spots that they're taking out. Yeah. Fast forward to 2015. That passed. I remember voting on it. I don't know if you were in Virginia at that time.
I was not in Virginia at that time.
I remember voting on it. I had the bumper sticker and everything. I had some of my homosexual and gay friends, which I do have homosexual and gay friends. They know where I stand, and they know that I care for them, but I want them to see them come to Christ.
Oh, yeah.
They jumped all over me when they saw the bumper stickers on the back of my car. But I had the bumper stickers, and I voted for it, and it passed. It passed by a pretty good number. So fast forward to 2015. In 2015, there was a homosexual couple in the state of Ohio. Ohio, at the time, did not recognize same-sex unions. And they got married in Maryland, but moved back to Ohio. Well, one of the partners passed away. The partner that was left, his last name was Obergefell.
Oh, yeah.
And because Ohio did not recognize the marriages of same-sex couples, he had none of the benefits from his dead partner. None of the estate, anything, because Ohio did not recognize. Well, he sued the Attorney General of the state of Ohio, and it went to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court made the declaration in a 5-4 decision. And it was bipartisan because it was 5 Democrats, 4 Republicans. They made the decision, the declaration, that every state had to recognize same-sex marriage.
Yeah.
All 50 states. Okay. And then fast forward now to 2024, which when it came to the General Assembly the first time, the introductory to that mentions Obergefell v. Hodges.
Yeah, it does.
And it also, if when I was sitting committee, they would say things like this: our Constitution is unconstitutional.
Right.
We're trying to bring our Constitution. This is their excuse, and this is important for the viewers to know. We're trying to bring our Constitution in line with federal law.
Yeah.
Well, let's be clear. Proclamation from the Supreme Court does not necessarily make something federal law. The only thing that can make something federal law is to go through the legislature.
Right.
Because the Supreme Court justices do not make laws. Okay? They make declarations based on law.
Right.
But when I sit in the committee and I'm listening to Adam Sickles, who's a patron of the House side, and they're both in Spanberger's administration now. So when I sit in committee and I listen to Secretary Eben or Secretary Sickle, who both are homosexual in their private lives, say, well, we're just trying to bring Virginia Constitution in line with federal law. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Well, and it's hypocrisy because we're also violating the Constitution in numerous other places.
Well, and on that note, Will, one of the main ways that is a constitutional violation is it's a violation of the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights. 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights basically says, I'm going to paraphrase to make it easier to understand. The Bill of Rights basically says, the 10th Amendment says that if the federal government hasn't spoken, it goes back to the states.
Yeah.
And the founding fathers said a whole lot about marriage in their personal works.
Yeah.
But nowhere in the Declaration of Independence, and nowhere in the Constitution, nowhere in the Bill of Rights does it mention marriage. And so because the federal government hadn't spoken on it, it goes back to the states. And then they say, well, that's what we're trying to do in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're trying to act as a state. Well, that may be, but you're trying to act in the Commonwealth or for the state by saying we're trying to bring our Commonwealth in line with federal law. First of all, it's not a federal law. Supreme Court justices don't make laws. Second of all, even if they could make a law, they couldn't make a law because the 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights says they can't make a law. The state has to make a law on those things that the federal government has not spoken on. So the declaration by the justices in 2015 was completely unconstitutional. And basically, Justice Kennedy, who basically said in his supporting statement that, as this says, as the new language will say, that marriage is one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness. Where does it say that?
Nowhere.
Okay, now I'm married. I've been married 32 years. The Bible says in Peter that marriage is the grace of life. He that finds a wife findeth a good thing. We understand that. But constitutionally, marriage is not one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness. And the argument is, the argument by the left is, since marriage is one of the most vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness, then we need to extend that to all couples, including couples of same sex, or we're violating their constitutional right. No, you're not, because it's not marriage is not a constitutional right.
No, and it's this is where, again, it's a clash of worldviews in that we're replacing God with the state.
Mm-hmm.
Since forever, marriage has been a sacrament from God, forever.
Mm-hmm.
Where I don't understand, and again, it's where it's like a hypocrisy thing. I always contend it's pretty hard to meet an actual atheist, like a real one.
Yeah.
Like, because most people just have a problem with God. And then if that's true, then you're not an atheist, because then you believe there is God.
Yeah.
But if you don't believe in God, why get married?
Mm-hmm.
It's forever. All throughout history, it's been a sacrament of God.
Mm-hmm.
And up until recently, that's what it's been. And now the state gets involved and starts dictating what marriage is. God is very clear, very clear on what God is. He's very clear on that as well, on what marriage is. But then you'll hear from progressive Christians, no, Jesus. We can even go down that road.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're only going to go with what Jesus says. Cool. Let's do that, because he also is very clear on what marriage is.
I mean, he quotes the Genesis account.
Yeah, he quotes Genesis directly, and so marriage has always been a sacrament of God, and it's there to, because, and this is going to get way off base, so I'll just say it quickly, because God has always built nations upon families.
Mm-hmm.
It has always been that way.
Yeah.
Every single nation is built on families, and every single nation crumbles when you attack the family.
Yes.
Every single time, all throughout history, every single empire, doesn't matter, it starts with the family. And as soon as that structure is broken, you can see the crumble. And now you can see it in real time, because we don't have to just read the history books.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Yes.
What happens when you take marriage away, what God declares is what marriage is? What happens when you do that?
Mm-hmm.
We've seen it.
Yeah.
There's one thing people, I know we want to get to the church part of it. One thing that people don't like to talk about, look at the $1 billion child industry that cropped up out of all of this, because same-sex couples can't have kids.
Yeah.
Kids are treated as commodities now. And this isn't like conspiracy theory stuff. It's a $1 billion industry.
No, of course. I mean, you got a homosexual couple that hires a surrogate to have a child for them. And you're right. You're right. And the funny thing about it, not the ha-ha funny, but the ironic, let me use that word.
Yeah.
The ironic thing is that the phrase in the new language, marriage is one of the vital personal rights essential to the orderly pursuit of happiness. The Supreme Court justices said almost the same thing. And you know where they got that from, Will? The 14th Amendment.
Yeah.
The due process clause with the equal protection clause of the 14th Amendment. Now, when I stood in committee and debated the senators and the delegates on this bill, I said, "Look, guys," I said, John Bingham, who was a Republican representative from the state of Ohio, in 1868 patroned the 14th Amendment. 1868 was on the heels of what? The end of the Civil War,
Yeah,
just 3
Civil
years
War.
earlier. Okay, newly freed slaves were given their freedom, but they were not being treated equal. They
Yeah.
were not. They were enslaved, but they were still being treated as enslaved because they were not receiving the equal protection under
Right.
the law. They were not receiving due process. So John Bingham from Ohio patroned the 14th Amendment. And so the purpose of the 14th Amendment was to protect newly freed slaves. In fact, John Bingham, in a speech on the amendment, says that the amendment to which Congress is going to consider is given for the protection of newly freed slaves. It has that intent and no more. How in the world the Supreme Court justices can read the 14th Amendment and then read the history of the 14th Amendment and say, well, to say that we can't grant marriage to same-sex couples is a violation of the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. That's ridiculous. But that's what they did.
Yeah, I mean, that goes all the way. The entire narrative around, and I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what the acronym is anymore. LGBTQ, whatever it is.
Keep adding, yeah.
Rights. And this is the argument I have with, not argument, the debate I have with a lot of them. And I talk to people, I'll talk to whoever. It doesn't bother me. I have my beliefs. I'm very upfront about it. I'm very upfront when I talk to people. I'll gladly talk to you. Just know that I'm going to give you biblical answers and I'm going to ask questions. The framing of the narrative that this is a civil rights issue, and basically they're stealing. I want to say this right. They're taking the playbook from the African Americans who legitimately had a civil rights argument.
Now, Martin Luther King, he could claim the 14th Amendment when he was marching.
Exactly.
I mean, that would have been a proper interpretation, the proper application.
Yeah, that's what I mean. They're equating it to the. This is a better way to say it. They're equating it to the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's not the same thing.
And that ought to be offensive to African American people.
Absolutely, it should. Yeah. I don't understand what rights are being taken, and I hear it all the time. Or you can see it on the internet. People just screaming about their rights being taken away. What rights? Please tell me one. Tell me one that has been taken. Zero have.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, Will, a couple of same sex can get married in the Commonwealth of Virginia right now, and Virginia statute in Virginia recognizes same sex marriage. So the issue that happened with Obergefell in Ohio would not happen in Virginia right now.
No.
We don't have to change the Constitution. I also think this. I wish Bob Marshall's a good man, and I got to be careful because he's probably watching. Bob Marshall's a good man. I think the world of him. I wish he hadn't done what he did in 2006. Simply because we probably wouldn't be here now if he hadn't.
Yeah.
I feel his heart and I understand him. But the government doesn't need to define what God already has. You brought that up a few moments ago. The government doesn't need to do that. But here we are because of that.
Well, that's where we're going, is because if you go, you have to take the church out of. You have to take the church out of society. You have to quiet the church, which the enemy has done a very good job on the quieting part. Throughout history, and there's all kinds of examples, the enemy has tried to do it by force, and it doesn't work.
Right.
Because Christians are resilient, and as Tertullian said, the blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the Soviet Union tried it by force, didn't work. The Nazis tried it by force, it didn't work. You know what worked though? Just quietly, hey, you shouldn't talk about this. Hey, we need to fill seats. Hey, we need to seek people. Hey, we're going to go progressive, whatever it is. That worked.
Yeah.
Not for everyone, but on a larger scale than what had been previously done. And so then you have the state come in and go, well, no, this is what marriage is. And now churches are going to have to make a decision.
Mhm.
They're going to have to. That you can't hide in the walls anymore.
Yeah.
Because the Constitution of Virginia will say exactly what we read.
Yeah.
Right here. Subdivisions shall not deny the issuance of a marriage license to two adult persons seeking a lawful marriage.
Yeah.
You're going to have to make a choice now.
Mhm.
It's forced upon you because you didn't make a choice before. Now you don't have. It's like I joke with my son all the time. Like, oh, here's a funny one. He has to, for once, he has to do a science fair because he's at a new private school. And so they do science fairs. Dad, I don't want to do it. And I said, dude, it's part of being a kid.
Yeah.
You're going to do it. Now you can pick something that you think is fun, or I'm going to pick. That's what's happening.
No, yeah.
In a dumb example way that people can relate to, that's what's happening. We had a chance and we were quiet. Now you don't have.
Right.
Now you have to choose.
Yeah.
So where do you see this filtering down to the churches if this passes in November?
I have vacillated on my perspective of that. When I first started debating on this bill, I thought that they were looking to put pastors in jail, and I don't know that that's not where it'll ultimately end up. I think last week or a couple weeks ago, we may have even mentioned the fact that they are going to take away possibly pastors' ability to marry people based on the fact that they're denying marrying couples of same sex.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it's not going that direction either. One thing is true is they're coming after the church, because when this was first introduced into the General Assembly when I first saw it back in September, October of 2004, I was in committee in November debating it even before session started in 2004. It had in the language the conscience clause.
Right. Which this does not have.
So I'm thinking to myself, why'd you remove it?
That was my thought.
Okay. In fact, on January the 16th, when it was in the Senate, Emily Jordan from down the Isle of Wight, she gave an amendment she gave a floor amendment. Basically, she wanted to insert after line 31, she wanted to insert, no member of the church or clergy shall be required to perform any sacrament of marriage that goes against their religious beliefs. They rejected it on the spot in the Senate.
Yeah, and that begs the question: why would you do that? It's the same thing in Montgomery County. They had to go all the way to the Supreme Court because they would not give the parents an opt-out for LGBTQ. I can't remember if it was lessons or if it was just reading stories, but the parents had to sue. But why would you just not give an opt-out? If this is truly about fairness, and this is where the church has got to start realizing, whether you realize it or not, we're in spiritual war right now.
Yeah.
Because if we're not, then there's an opt-out in here. If this is truly about, I don't even know how to say it, because again, I believe that marriage is a sacrament of God. If we're just saying, look, this is about fairness and everyone gets to get married, then there would be a provision in there that says, if you are a church or a mosque or a synagogue, that if it's against your religious beliefs, you do not have to do that.
Right.
But why continually does it happen on the left where that opt-out is not there?
Right.
If it's not
agenda driven,
a shot across the bow.
Exactly. Because, like you said, if it's just a matter of fairness, okay, then they can go to justice of the peace.
Yeah.
They go to the courthouse steps. They don't have to go to a church to get married. If it's all about equality, all about fairness, then let us have our consciousness. Let us be driven by our conscience. But they don't want that.
No.
And as you sit in committee and you watch this stuff, the left just opens the door of who they really are and what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
But now the excuse is, and it's always the same, It's always this excuse to reject any type of an amendment like that. Well, clergy are already protected under 57-1 of the Virginia Religious Rights Act.
Right.
Clergy are already protected. They think, they say, that thing penned by Thomas Jefferson. The clergy are already protected on it. Constitutional, and our hearers need to remember this: constitutional law always supersedes statute. So if you've got the religious freedoms values of Thomas Jefferson, and you've got the Constitution that say opposing things, Constitution wins the day every time. And so that's why it's important that these conscience clauses get in the Constitution, because the Constitution will override anything else that's written.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just shows the end game is what? The end game is to quiet the church.
Mm-hmm.
It's what the end game is, because otherwise there would be. It's never about fairness.
No.
It's never about, it's always, this is what it is, and you can deal with it or not, and that's it. Yeah. There is no open for debate. There is no conscience clause. There is no room for other beliefs.
Right.
Because it's, like we said last week, it's a false religion.
Mm-hmm.
Just like if someone came in here, I will listen all day long, but we're not doing marriage, a same-sex marriage. It's just not going to happen.
Which is, like I told you at the beginning, that I don't think anymore that their end game right now is to put pastors in jail, because they don't want to make martyrs out of pastors. They want to redefine them. They want them, because if you throw them in jail, they're martyrs, and like you said, Tertullian said, blood of the martyrs, the seed of the church, and they don't want that.
No,
but they want to reclassify us as bigots.
Yeah, oh yeah.
They want to classify Hollywood Church as a bigot church of people that hate homosexuals, and that's how they want to classify us, and then try to destroy us that way.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I've been called a lot of names, and it's funny because and I don't like, and I'm not even going to bring up all the things I do, because that's not why I do anything. But like, I was joking with my wife a couple of weeks ago, less and less people realize how nice of a person I am. But I'm not equating anyone to Nazis. It just happens to be a Nazi story. I forget the pastor's name, but anyway, Hitler came to
Bonhoeffer.
No, not Bonhoeffer. It was one of his friends.
Oh, okay.
And Martin Mueller, that's his name.
Oh, yeah.
And so Hitler comes to him and explains what's going on, and didn't really tell him the whole truth. But basically what he said was, look, we're going to take care of the country. We're going to fix the country. You just stay in your church, and we'll leave you alone.
You're right.
Don't say anything against us. We've got this. You stay in your church. And so he did. He didn't help Bonhoeffer. In fact, he said Bonhoeffer was wrong at the beginning. So fast forward a little bit of time, and Martin Mueller is brought forth to at this point, the Fuhrer. And unbeknownst to Pastor Mueller there, he had been listened to speaking against the Fuhrer, and he didn't know it. And Hitler showed his true colors, and Mueller realized what a massive mistake he made, because he never spoke up. And believe it or not, he ended up in a concentration camp as well. And I bring that up, and I bring that story up a lot, mainly because a lot of these churches will come to you or to I hear it from a lot of people that go to different churches. Why are we not talking about these things? Why are we not doing these things? And I bring that story up because this is what happens. Again, I'm not equating, but it just happens to be a Nazi story. But when you don't say anything, these are the beginnings of where you find yourself going, wait a second, this is something's not right. It's the same thing when we did the gerrymandering thing.
Mm-hmm.
They're calling it fair, but that's not right. Like my mom watches this. She called me yesterday or the other day and was like, if I didn't listen to you guys, I wouldn't have known
Exactly
the truth of what that was. And so churches have, especially when it comes to our sacraments, why are we not protecting this? The most successful marriage is always between a man and a woman, and God is in the middle of that.
Mm-hmm.
If you can do that, and marriage is always hard, but if you can do that, think about, actually, we talked about in the Bible class the other day, how many 50-year anniversaries do you see anymore?
Not many.
It's so sad. I mean, that's more of a comment on divorce, but you don't see them anymore because we've devalued marriage. We've devalued the sacrament of God.
And you can't depend on the legislatures to do what's right. And then, case in point, I got a lot of friends in Richmond, and some of them are watching this program, and they're going to get upset with me because I don't mind mentioning names. But you got 3 Republicans in the Senate that voted yes on this amendment. You got Danny Diggs from down in York County, Yorktown. You got Tara Durant from up in this area.
Yeah.
I don't think she's your senator.
No.
But she's from not far from this area. She's running against Eugene Vidman for Congress if she wins the nomination.
Correct.
She voted yes for this. And guess who the third person was? Emily Jordan. So they rejected her amendment for the conscience clause, and then she turned around and voted for the amendment. So the backbone of some people in Richmond is really, really curved.
Yeah, and I know next week we're probably going to do the last amendment, but maybe after that we can talk about, and I'm going to talk about, this is going to post after the Christ and Culture night tonight, but the accountability just in general is gone.
Yeah.
I remember becoming a Christian because I came to Christ later in life, and I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you, I took it for granted. I read the Bible and said, this is what we believe. And I took it for granted that not everyone thought that.
Right.
I just thought if you called yourself a Christian, and I remember being baptized again as an adult. I was baptized in the Catholic Church as a kid, and then my family thing. And then, but I remember being baptized, and I remember going to seminary. And even in seminary, I took it for granted because I was around other people. And it wasn't until later that I was like, wait a second, what? We're arguing about marriage?
Yeah.
It's pretty clear.
Yeah. One of my professors in seminary, John MacArthur, he's with the Lord and went to heaven 6 or 7 months ago, I guess.
Yeah.
Now. He said in one of our Bible classes, he said when I entered the ministry, he said I had absolutely no idea that I would be defending truth from those people
He's so right.
that claim to be a Christian.
Yeah.
He said, you would expect to battle truth from people that are not saved, but those people that stand behind pulpits and wave a Bible in the air and call themselves God-fearing Christians, he says, those were the people that I had to defend truth against more than the unbelievers. Now, obviously, they were truly unbelievers. If you don't believe the Bible, you can't be upset.
Yeah.
What they claimed was to be a God-fearing Christian. He said, those were the people I was having to fight.
Yeah, and I know you and I have talked about it, and it's unfortunate we have to decide what kind of Christians like. And here's where I come at it in 2 ways. One, Christ died for this.
Mm-hmm.
He died for me. He died for you. The least I can do, the very, very least that I can do, is to stand up for what he died for.
Yeah.
And then you take it across history and you look at all the martyrs, and this is never on the news, and people are always shocked. And I know you probably already know this, but over the last 10 to 15 years, there's more Christian martyrs in the world than in the history of the world.
Yeah.
There are people who die trying to study the Bible, and we have the gall to get up and go, well, some weird translation thing we're going to talk about. is not translated correctly, really, because I took Greek. I know what it says.
Yeah.
You went to seminary.
Mhm.
It's part of the
syllabus.
Yeah, it's you have to take Greek. So no, I know what it says.
Mhm.
I've read you can go to the Museum of the Bible and read it for yourself.
Yeah.
And so churches, especially on this marriage one, well, again, in our assessment on all of them, but this is one where you've got to step into, and you're gonna, whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's what I see as the big threat. And I've been taking this message all over the Commonwealth, but this is what I want our viewers to recognize what the real threat is. Since I don't believe that they're trying to put us in jail right now, that's not the immediate threat. Like I said, that may be down the road, but that's not the immediate threat.
Yeah.
I also don't think that necessarily the immediate threat is to take away your license to perform marriages. That may be what happens before they throw us in jail. That may be step number 2. So I think that's coming, but I don't think the immediate threat is. The immediate threat, and I'm not saying this, saying that churches need to be concerned about that and back down.
Right.
We don't bow. I preached a message last Sunday, Lord's Day, that we don't bow to Caesar no matter what Caesar says.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this because this is the threat, and that is the tax-exempt status of churches. Because I need people to understand, churches are automatically considered tax exempt under the 501c3 code of the IRS.
Right.
Now, tax exempt is different than not for profit. They're 2 different classifications.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
The churches are automatically considered tax exempt because they're a church. However, what Christians need to understand is just because we're automatically considered 501c3 tax exempt, that does not mean that there are not rules that do not require us to follow certain things in order to maintain that tax. Automatic tax exempt status just basically means we don't have to file for it.
Right.
Okay. So because there are 7 requirements on the IRS website, there are 7 requirements that particularly target churches that says in order for you to maintain your 501c3, you've got to do these 7 things. And the 7th requirement is you cannot engage in a violation of, quote, fundamental public policy. Now, fundamental public policy could be a number of things. For example, 1983, Bob Jones University lost their case in Bob Jones v. United States in the Supreme Court because prior to 1983, Bob Jones didn't allow black people to attend their university. So they lost their tax-exempt status for a while because they violated fundamental public policy. And people say, well, Bob Jones isn't a church. I recognize the fact that Bob Jones isn't a church. But the fact is, Bob Jones was 501c3, just like churches are 501c3. So whether you're a college, another educational institution, or a church, you're all under 501c3, yep. Therefore all have the same requirements. It doesn't matter that Bob Jones isn't a church. They're 501c3. Hollywood Church is 501c3. Now, Bob Jones had to apply for it. Hollywood Church did not have to. Emmanuel Baptist Church did not have to.
Right.
But all 3 of us are 501c3, and so therefore all 3 of us cannot violate fundamental public policy. And once this becomes a constitutional amendment and Pastor Will refuses to perform a same-sex wedding without a conscience clause in the amendment, you are violating fundamental public policy. And Jay Jones and the IRS can come after your tax-exempt status and take it away because you violated fundamental public policy. That is the immediate threat. And what that's going to do is that's going to require churches to add 40% to their budget to cover taxation. But what it'll also mean is that people that give to your church can't take that off of their taxes as donations because you're no longer a tax-exempt entity.
Yeah, you're not 501c3.
No.
Yeah, there are rules to it.
Yeah.
It is not just a let her fly, let her rip situation.
No. Automatic only means you don't have to apply.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you can't lose it.
So, and this is where I get worried, and this is why I'm trying so hard, and the small church, you have a lot of small kind of isolated churches in Virginia that are hanging on, and it breaks my heart anytime a church closes, a Bible preaching church closes, because I can go off on a rant on church plants. It's fine, plant churches. There's churches that need our help though. It's more where I come from. Anyway, they're small isolated churches that are not connected to each other, not connected to an organization like yours, or some of these nonprofit law firms that do religious freedoms that don't have those connections. They're the ones in trouble.
Yeah.
Because if they lose their 501c3, that probably means they're closing the doors. Because it does. A building costs money. It doesn't matter the size. Right. Granted, the bigger building you have, the more expensive it gets. But a small building,
a building that seats 200 people in most counties, north of $600,000.
Yeah,
in this economy, and plus then you got buses.
Yeah, electric bills, landscaping, parking lot maintenance, all kinds of stuff they don't teach you about cemetery. Yeah. And these small churches that are barely hanging on as it is, and some of them, I've spoken to some over the last couple of years, been real hurt by pastors that are not part of their calling. You know what I mean? They just took it as a job.
Yeah.
And so now they're in trouble because of that. So finances are tight. You add 40% to that, it's done.
Yeah. They're not trying to make you a martyr by throwing you in jail or by taking away your license. They're trying to silence you.
Yeah.
And if they can shut you down, what better way to shut down a church than through taxation, Will? They shut you down through taxation. I mean, if you read the Declaration of Independence, that was one of the grievances of the colonials. Now, it wasn't the top reason. Right. It was number 17 of 25. A lot of people think that. A lot of people want to say that was their most strenuous. No, it really wasn't. It was number 17 of the 25. It was one of them, taxation without representation. So what better way? They were trying to silence the colonials through taxation. What better way than to silence the church than through taxation?
Yeah, it's the most effective way because, like you said, they throw one of us in jail. What happens?
Four of us pop back up.
Yeah.
I mean, look what happened after Charlie Kirk's assassination.
Yeah.
And that's what would happen if they made martyrs out of pastors, and they know that.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about Charlie tonight. I got to meet him once, and I spoke at his memorial in Fredericksburg, 6 months ago, with what happened to him, and what came out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Churches were ready to receive people and teach them the Bible. And again, actually that sacrament argument is, I heard Charlie talk about it. And I had never heard someone talk about marriage. I mean, I always knew it was the sacrament of God, but the part that he was talking about that really intrigued me, that I kind of took from him, was, why would you want to get married if you're not a Christian?
True. Yeah.
And it's a simple question, but it's a really deep question of what your worldview is. I don't know why you would.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't. Especially in today's day and age, there might be some legal benefits, but there's not that many.
Mm-mm.
Not anymore. It's not like the 60s or 50s or 40s or whatever, where it was a definite
right.
But those were all incentives, by the way, to continue the family. Those benefits that people want so bad, those were there to build the families. Particularly after World War II, when we had to kind of, rebuild after that. Those were all put in place to facilitate the building of the family. Look at what Trump is trying to do with the, what does he call it? Trump savings account, or basically a kid born within certain years of when it gets passed. And I think it goes into effect in the summertime or something, because I already looked for my kid. He's too old, but what is that for? It's to facilitate,
incentivize.
in
reproduction.
yeah, because we're at a really dangerous.
Yeah.
Again, what happens when we take God out of marriage?
That's right.
Well, look at the population level, and this is just facts. You have to have a certain replacement level
Yes.
of reproduction.
Mhm.
This is just basic math.
Yeah.
But it's not there. We're well below where we need to be as a nation. And people was, it's coincidence, is it?
No, not at all.
We devalued marriage and child rates. Again, we child rates, and we talked about abortion last week. We changed marriage, and we're making abortion easier than it's ever been in the history of the world. And it turns out we don't have enough kids.
Yep.
At some point, this stops.
Make our laws easier for heterosexual couples to murder their children, and make laws allowing homosexual couples to marry who cannot reproduce.
Yeah.
So either way, just like you said, either way, you're hitting at the fabric of the family.
Yeah. And that's really what I want people to start realizing is we have to start thinking long term.
Mm-hmm.
We have to fight these battles now, yes, but that's because there's long term implications. It's not about me or you.
Right.
We're the ones at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to see, but we have to get it to a point where we hand it off to the next generation in a better spot than what it is right now, because the end result is Rome falling.
Absolutely. I don't know that I'll see all these fears come to fruition, but my grandkids will.
Yeah.
Your kids will. Your kids will.
Yeah.
My kids might, but I might not. You might not. We may be in heaven by then before we see all these fears come to fruition. Now, the tax exempt thing, I think we'll see pretty quick.
Yeah.
But
I think so too. And I hope I'm wrong about all the things that I talk about.
Yeah,
I really do, but I love history, and you can see the Bible tells us what God has said is good. What happens when we turn away from God? The Bible's very clear about that.
Yes. Yes.
And you can tell in history what happens when you start messing with the family unit.
Yeah.
It's painfully obvious what happens. And we've been doing it now since, I'd say no fault divorce was in there. So mid 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're starting to see what happens when you do tear at it for that long.
It was funny. I was sitting in the chamber today and they brought up a divorce bill, another bill to make divorce a little bit easier. And the patron of the bill, Rip Sullivan, I didn't catch everything that he said, but these things, a couple of things he said caught my attention. He says, we want to make divorce a little bit easier and less hurtful for the children. And I said to myself, and I said out loud, impossible.
Yeah, it is impossible because
you just showed your ignorance of morality.
No.
That you're going to even claim that divorce could ever be easy.
No.
Or, no, maybe legally easy. And that's probably his only concern.
Yeah.
But then to say, and easier, less painful for the children. What an absolute foolish thing to say.
Yeah, that's crazy because children, I don't know, maybe one day I'll tell my full story. Children are wired for a mom and a dad.
Yes.
It's what it is.
Yes.
People can disagree all they want. It doesn't matter. A child, a baby, a young toddler, all the way through their teenage, it's a mother and a father.
Mm-hmm.
And when one of those is gone, it is life-changing.
Yeah.
Utterly life-changing, because that child will never you can make whatever law you want. You can come out with whatever psychology thing you want about how it's better to be divorced, and it doesn't matter.
No.
It's all nonsense. That kid is looking for his mom. That kid, whether it's a boy or girl, that child is looking for his mom and he's looking for his dad.
Yeah.
and for different functions. And that's a whole other thing that we don't have time for. But every single time is looking at that. And if you can even go to studies. Children that come from I hate that we call it this now, but a traditional home, generally speaking, they're productive members of society. The type of home that I come from, and I love my mom, but just stats, I shouldn't have 2 degrees. I have 2 degrees because of who my mom was,
Sure.
and my grandparents, but just statistically speaking, I shouldn't have them.
Right.
Yep. It's all there. People just don't want to see it because we want to live in our sin.
Mm-hmm. Everybody does that which is right in their own eyes.
Exactly. Well, my family is different than yours. We have no.
It goes back to, and this is even true in churches. It all goes back to is truth subjective or objective?
Yeah.
And for so many people, truth is subjective, meaning it comes from within ourselves. So you have your truth, I have my truth, and it doesn't matter if our truths disagree with each other. It's my truth.
Yeah, which is
if you don't judge me for my truth, then I won't judge you for yours.
Which is maybe we could do one whole episode on the devaluing of words, because I love that. That's not what truth is.
Right.
It's not. Look it up in the definition. It's.
But it carries over. Then,
it does.
Then truth about family becomes fluid.
Yeah.
Truth about marriage becomes fluid. Truth about sex becomes fluid. Truth about everything. And then you've got however many people you have, that's how many truths you have. And you're classified as a bigot, a racist, or whatever other adjective they want to use. If you dare stand and say there's one truth, it's contained in one book that contains 66 books.
Yep.
It's called the Holy Bible. That's the only truth. And to try to search for truth in any place else is a massive failure in a search for truth.
It is.
But how dare you say that in public square today?
Well, we do.
But they say it here at Hollywood Church.
We say it. So we'll do the last amendment next week, and then maybe we'll splinter off into some of these other different topics. But if you're enjoying the show, please subscribe. It's getting way better numbers than I thought it would. I don't know. I don't know anything about the internet, so I never know what to expect.
Right.
One I thought would be good. But my son told me that's not very good. But it's more than one. So if you're enjoying it, we thank you for watching, and subscribe and share it around. And I hope everyone has a great rest of the week.